free speech. You're saying that everybody in the world, this Woodbury, has to comply with this. Therefore, political party, war in Iraq, abortion, no matter what your
I've got
message
the
is.
exact quote here somewhere. It says, no law shall ever be
That's
passed
what it says, but I say what I
to
think.
limit or restrain.
John, it's section 5 of the Connecticut Constitution states no law shall ever be passed to curtail or restrain the liberty of free speech or of the press, and that is from Attorney
By
General.
restricting sign sizes, you're curtailing.
I do not
Refrain.
Well, case law has said contradictory to that.
Federal Constitution or Connecticut Constitution?
Connecticut
was in Connecticut.
Constitutionally, the Crow-Steer action went against that, and this is what the basis was. The plaintiff brought a claim based on 42 U.S.C. Section 1983, claiming that the cease and desist order infringed upon her right of free speech, with the zoning enforcement officer engaged in selective enforcement of the zoning regulations in violation of her right of equal protection. The trial court granted summary judgment in favor of the zoning enforcement officer on both claims. The appellate court, while upholding the Superior Court's judgment denying the free speech claim, reversed the ruling on the selective enforcement claim and remanded the case to the Superior Court. Thereafter, Judge Corradino denied 2 additional motions for summary judgment filed by the zoning enforcement office. Case settled shortly before it began trial.
Does it specify in there that was in the Connecticut courts, but did they say
This
what
is
they?
Connecticut law.
It says
This is
it all, that's why
Connecticut.
it didn't testify.
This
It
is
said it
Connecticut
all.
only. And I
Bob, I'm not saying that's not a Connecticut book. I'm talking about that case.
that case
Was
is
that-
Connecticut.
I know it was in Connecticut, but was that case tried based on the federal Constitution or the Connecticut Constitution?
Makes no difference.
Yes, it
Because-
does.
Wait a
It
minute.
most certainly does.
Because according to Beacon Falls versus Posick, back in 1989, typically the legislative acts of the zoning commission are afforded a presumption of constitutionality, and the party challenging the order has a heavy burden of proving their unconstitutionality.
But John, in a way it's moot, and I understand the question, but if a Connecticut appeals court, if a Connecticut Superior Court denies the free speech claim, if the appeals court denies the free speech claim, and the Supreme Court of Connecticut upholds both of those, where are you coming from?
It didn't uphold it.
It did.
No, it said it, they're not gonna rule on it.
According
It didn't have
to,
to at that point.
according to
Because they're
Mr.
saying,
Miller's own
refer back to the lower court. But I think this is really critical for this discussion. This is a Connecticut court saying the zoning commission enforcement officer was correct. How if we in Connecticut are not supposed, where was that court coming off? What did they base it on?
Larry, just to clarify that thing that I sent to you, I got at a national conference of the American Planning Association, and it's certainly not Connecticut oriented. It was based, you know, it was put together by attorneys from Kansas City, Diego, or whatever, and I thought it would be useful to the commission. It was like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
But I felt compelled to go to a session called Constitutionality of Sign Regulations for some reason.
In the mid-90s, in response to a Missouri law that had the effect of prohibiting the war sign in the window of a home being unconstitutional.
Missouri, we're talking Connecticut Constitution.
Now, wait a minute.
not Missouri.
CCLU sent a mailing to all the towns. Now, CCLU is the group that Art has been
GCL.
It's CCLU, the Connecticut.
Civil Liberties Union.
Right.
Okay.
Sent a mailing to all the towns a few years ago challenging the regulation of political signs. In response, some towns, Westport, Note that some regulation of size, shape, number, and location of yard signs is permissible. That's Connecticut.
Who said that?
This is from, practice.
Well, we've done.
John's looking for
I don't have a case except Crow Steer.
Okay. We can go around and around in circles. There are clearly people on each side. There are some people who haven't actually spoken yet. It's been a long time that these regulations have been in place. And I think we all perhaps need to voice an opinion on it. But we do not have unanimity. After 34 months, we do not have unanimity. And we listen to you, and we listen to you, and we listen to you. And we do not have unanimity. It's not clear. People say it should have been a dead issue 34 months ago. The reason it hasn't been, and the reason it still isn't, is because there are sides to this discussion that not everybody is in accordance with. I mean, I've made the statement. I tried to wrap up the public hearing by saying there's a lot of people in town who moved to this town because it's pretty. And those people stop me in the supermarket and say, I'm glad you're standing up for this. Like, you won't read them out in the papers or see them on that, but I'm kind of regardless. You know? So there's two sides to it, is where I'm going.
You take testimony in the supermarket?
Yep.
Oh, but I can't.
So I heard in the supermarket are things too, then?
Absolutely.
I don't think you're
And
gonna hear it.
everything is forgotten because we have to bring it up in a public hearing.
We're trying to move, I'm trying to converge. I mean, I know that I am guilty of having taken a position a long time ago and not moved off it, but I haven't been convinced by anybody.
You
to move
can't
off
document, you have a
I'm
right
sorry,
to
Sean.
You let them talk, now you don't let me speak.
You're
I
right.
object on the record that you let Tom Harris and Art McNally add to the conversation, you didn't let me speak. You can't prove you have the right to do this, you have filibustered that for 3 years, and you got the statute, you can't do it. And that's your problem, you don't want to hear it.
This is not a public hearing.
Okay, so well, you've spoken and.
Thank you for
So
being fair.
back within the confines of this discussion.
We
If we are ready to make a decision, let's make it.
have 3 options.
If we're not ready to make a decision, then we need to say how we're going to move to the next month and the next month.
As I said, we have 3 options. A, do nothing, which is basically just, no vote and just rehash this again next month and next month and next month until eternity. 2, we could say we can follow about 8 or 9 other towns in the state that have said that. After Mansfield, Cheshire, Colchester, let's see, Woodbury, start naming towns that have basically said, let's get out of this fight because it's a losing battle. And say, size, actually, even in Westport, which I think was raised here, says that political signs are exempt from these regulations, period. It's a one-line sentence.
Westport.
Westport. Political signs are exempt from these regulations. So how do we just say that? That's option 2.
Is it the sense of the commission that we should adopt some form of Larry's statement?
Some form of what, I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Larry's statement that.
Political signs
political
are
signs
exempt from these
exempt.
regulations.
Exempt political signs from the regulation.
I'm not going to agree with it, but I'm just asking what the sense around it.
I mean, that's basically what Larry's proposal is.
Yes, it is.
With the removal of the last sentence that we put
Yeah.
forward, perhaps
We
erroneously.
tighten it even further. Political signs are exempt from these regulations.
Okay, the size and restraint of
Originally I put
Period.
size and time in there because
You were asking for a repeal,
I was asking.
total repeal.
Well, I
If you
think,
let me finish my sentence,
Yeah.
I'll get to your answer. Originally, I put in size and time because I was still trying to just address those 2 points
Right.
while leaving safety issues, lighting, they're all in here in the zoning regulations as they are. And I figured by saying just the time and the size, those are the only 2 things that would be, but let's pretend it even further.
all right, I'm just asking for a clarification.
Let's clarify even further.
Thank you,
Political signs are exempt from these regulations, period.
thank you.
Let's stay out of the constitutional fight, let's stay out of the legal fight. And let's uphold the Connecticut State Constitution.
David, want something?
I mean,
I agree with that.
I would like to see something in this country, in this day and age, take a step back towards the Constitution. Instead of what we're seeing constantly, everything going away from it.
Which constitution?
Both, Connecticut and US.
But they're living documents. You want to make them
No, they're not.
a dead document. You want them written as they were back then, not as they apply now.
If you want to change them, amend them.
They were amended.
Not to allow regulations on political science.
They were amended. Yeah, but
That's
that's
not
not
about something that, if you can relate it to the subject, it's not fun, but otherwise we're just arguing. Teddy, do you have an opinion?
You know, I don't. I've been here for all these meetings before it started this. I always wanted to put the town forward and for the best interest of the town. And I'm not sure which way I want to go on this sign thing right this minute. I can relate to my own self. I was in the trucking business for over 50 years. I never had one sign. I work every day, and I was able to use it by my name. A politician needs a great big sign. He needs a great big sign. To myself, I don't vote for the person because if the guy's any good at all, a little sign's going to get a vote. So I've had trouble with signs because I've been on the commission. Everybody wants a bigger sign from day one, and I don't know why they need it. I don't even advertise in the phone book, only under my own personal name. So I'm having a very difficult time going with this, whether it's the Constitution or it isn't. So that's where I'm sitting, and maybe I shouldn't even sit there when somebody else made a decision.
Martin, I have a question for you, because I originally had said that there were 3 things, I've only mentioned 2. The third thing we could do is tied to, which again smacks of, and maybe this is a compromise position, largest sign commercials, tied to the largest commercial sign square footage in town.